Corey. How are you?
Hello.
So you're a little early. Someone told me that the link was broken, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't.
Yeah, that was me. When I tried to do the link, it didn't work.
Okay. So Corey, did you have a problem? Like when you launched the link, or did it let you right in? So Jamie?
Yes, sir.
So what did it say then when you hit the link?
It says page not found, error, page not found. The page you are looking for, the page you are looking for cannot be found.
Okay. And then Corey, how were you able to get on? Corey, if you want to go and turn your mic on or unmute. There, yeah, just unmute if you want. Although I can go down here, I can mute mine. But so how were you able, Corey? Was there a problem when you went to get on the class? The link for tonight?
Okay, I didn't hear it.
You understand? Can you hear me okay or not really?
Not really.
All right, let me try this.
All right, how about now?
That's better.
Okay, I have this different setup, so that'll work. All right, let's talk about what we're going to do next week, because I've been thinking long and hard about this. We have a test, and it's a practical is what it is. And so it will cover, the first 4 labs, and it's multiple choice. But I was looking at having it open over the weekend, as well as up till like Tuesday night at 11. And I didn't see that as a problem, because I figure if people are gonna go ahead and cheat or whatever that they're gonna do it irregardless of however I set it up. But if I give more days, then there's more opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I open it, and that's what I'm gonna do, I've already opened it up Friday morning through Tuesday night. But let's talk, since you two are early, let's talk about how do you do well on this? I think the way to do well is take the notes, the lab notes, and for each lab 1 through 4, and read them, and then look at the assignment and see what the questions are, and just make sure that you can, without having to go back to your notes, be able to look at the assignment and understand the material that it's asking. So the hardest part should probably be the chemistry, where it has the little stick models. That's probably going to be hard. I don't see much hard on lab 1, because all we have are body organ systems, organs, stuff like that. So that was straightforward. Do you guys agree?
Yes, and I think I don't know if we lost her.
Okay, I think we did. Maybe she'll come back.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So then the chem part is going to be a little harder, but you just need to be able to look and identify and go back and forth and understand those stick models.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then from that point, then just know about the different types of bonds and stuff. And then when we get into cells last week, we were just basically talking about the different parts and organelles. And then what you can just look at, the notes and the images. That's gonna help. So when I made the test, what I did is I took the notes and I took the images, and some of the questions I took basically from the assignment, the lab notes, asking about the images, because that's where you can get most of your material. So it should be straightforward, Jamie. I'm expecting 100 from you.
I'm gonna try. This is very new to me. I'm a paralegal by trade, so I'm switching careers. So like this is very new and hard for me, but I'm working through it.
So how did you do on your? How did you? I don't have the. I could get them. Let me grab something right back.
Okay.
Okay, Jamie, so,
Yes, sir.
okay, so did you get a chance to take each of those quizzes up to 5 times?
I don't think I took them each 5 times. I took the first one, I think, 3 times, the second one 3 times, and I believe the third one 3 times.
Okay, so then what you also want to do is go back and take them for review. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you have a couple more, that would be a good way to study for the tests coming up next week.
I remember you saying that. That's why I kind of left some available for me to be able to do that.
Well, and then why don't we do this? Why don't you ask me later on tonight, and I'm going to have you write this down,
Okay.
to go in and add maybe two more to each lab. So in other words, I can make it where you can access it 7 times. See what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And then that way, that everybody will know that that's one of the things that that they're able to go ahead and do.
Okay.
Okay. And I mean, mainly what it's hard. I'm gonna be going to the school like in a week or so, and I'm gonna go and take bones because we're gonna be learning bones.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be holding bones up in front of everybody, and that's how we're going to be able to actually learn the different parts of the bone.
I gotcha.
Because if you have it in your hand and I can point at things, you're going to have a picture because you'll have the textbook, but we need to be able to pronounce it, and then we need to be able to figure out, how to, what the different features are. Hello, sir. We're a little early, but early is good. So I'm entertaining questions right now. Henry, do you have any questions at all?
I do, sir. I was actually taking this time to FaceTime my children. I wasn't expecting you to be on just quite yet.
Well, and you want to know something? I only went on because I was told our link was broken. And so you can do whatever you want to do with your children. We're not going to get started till 7 anyway. I just want to make sure that we were, and then, how would I study this stuff? And then, we'll talk about the test that's coming up next week and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. So Corey, do you have any questions? None.
I kind of conked out a little bit on your message. My computer froze up, so
I saw that. Yeah, I expect a lot more problems. I'm having William Gunner. He's going to do share timing with us for images. I'm not even going to attempt. I've tried. I'm like 2 strikes and 1 more strike and I'm out. So I'm going to let him help us tonight. So that'll work. Okay. Why don't you guys, if you have time, why don't you just take the notes and read the notes? We're not going to go over the microscope because we don't have a scope in front of us. So I'm not even going to do that. That's not on the test. So you don't even have to worry about it. But look at the different types of tissue, okay? Like stratified squamous and cuboidal. Just read that over. You got, we have 13 minutes, so we got plenty of time. Okay, once you do that, that'll help for a little review.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Up, 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 up.
Dr. Byrne, I was about to ask if you got my email, but I have now seen it.
Oh, okay. That was earlier today?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I ended up doing a bunch of stuff, trying to play catch up and a bunch of different,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I'll still let you do that. You can catch up. I'm not sure what I said, but you can catch up. There's just so much going on. I got out of town for 5 days and it's great. So I don't have to, when I left, I had everything set up for tonight for the most part, tests set up for next week, and I was able to get out.
Nice.
So as we go through, and what I just was mentioning earlier, just go in and take those quizzes, get caught up and submit them, and I'll take a look at them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And then that way I set it up for eight attempts, because some people already used 5. So that way they can review, and that should work. So we should have like 40 people tonight.
Okay. I submitted 1 or 2 of them, I believe.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look and see.
I will too, because I'm not certain. I was trying to do it in all my courses.
Yeah. Well then, so you're going to have time to go in each one and play with it. And the more, I think there were like 25 questions. They only picked 10. You know what I mean? So if you can take it multiple times, that'll be fine.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
we have a few people that need to catch up. And I don't know what the rest of us want to do, but we all need to catch up. And really, this first practical is the easiest one.
Sure.
And so what we want to do is kind of get ready for it, because the second one tests you a little bit more. It's on a lot of memory, a lot of memorization.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All righty. You have all the materials?
Yes, sir. I have everything. I was able to go today and have tonight's notes printed off and stuff. So I've got those. I'm up to date with. I have all of that. I just haven't had much of a chance to sit down with it.
Yeah. Well, once you interact, and then just so you're aware, you may find that if you have a test next week, I'm going to have this practical test open Friday, It's already open Friday morning at 6 in the morning, and it's going to close Tuesday night at 11. So if you find that, as you're catching up, you're pretty strong on all this stuff and you want to take it Saturday or Sunday, do it when you have the opportunity while it's fresh,
Yes, sir.
whatever works for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're starting to get everybody here. We have 17. I expect there to be about 40 people. So some will come as we get started. I'd like everybody to go ahead and, if you don't mind, take take the sheet that you have that is over tonight's assignment, which will be dealing with skin and integument that you're going to fill in. And let's take a look at these different terms that we have. So we're going to have people coming in as we talk. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at, first of all, lab 4. Notice it says the microscope. We're not going to worry about this for tonight. It's not on your test. So just set it aside. Don't worry about it. So we're going to go to page 2. And page 2 is a bunch of blanks. And so first of all, it wants us to talk a little bit about different types of cells. So let's just talk about the 3 types of cells that we have. Just like fish have scales, our skin has flat cells, and the cells themselves are full of keratin, and they're squamous, they are flat. So you're going to have cells that are flat or squamous, that's one type. You're going to have box-like little cells, they're called cuboidal, they look like little sugar cubes, William. And then you're going to have long columnar, they look like columns on a house. So those are the 3 types of cells that we have. Now let's go back to squamous. What is simple squamous? Simple squamous is one layer of the squamous type cell. It's simple. Stratified means that it has multiple layers. So tonight, William is going to help us look through the different slides of the skin, and we're going to look for stratified squamous, and that'll be in the epidermis. But on tonight's assignment, it says simple cuboidal. So let's see if we can fill this in. Simple cuboidal epithelial. And so it looks like a cube. Cuboidal, let me, before you write anything down, cuboidal cells do 2 things. They absorb and they secrete. And those are the 2 things that they do. And so when we start looking at cuboidal, the function is that it'll be found in glands like oil glands and sweat glands. So what would the function be in oil or sweat gland if they either absorb or secrete? In this case, what would they do? Anybody? If it's a gland, it would have to do what?
Sweat.
It's sweat, and so you're going to secrete the sweat is what you're actually going to do. So when we look at cuboidal, it's simple cuboidal epithelium is found in the glands, and there'll be sweat glands and oil glands. So it'll be secreting oil or secreting sweat, okay? And the layer where this is found is in the dermis. So there's 3 layers of the skin we're going to talk about tonight. Epidermis is the outer layer, the dermis is the middle layer, and the hypodermis is the bottom layer, okay? So some of this is in your notes. I just wrote some of this down. So the next one that they want us to talk about, stratified squamous epithelium. And so stratified means multiple layers, more than just one. And so what do we think it's going to go ahead and do if we look at the functions? Because it gives us functions. It'll prevent dehydration, it'll prevent infection, and it'll stop UV light. So basically your skin is a protector, right? Keeps bacteria out is what it will actually do. It'll allow us to, basically it's there to protect us. So when we start talking about surface area, the organ system with the largest surface area would have to be the skin, okay? Is what it would have to be. We're letting people in. So we're doing well. We have 20 so far, 22. So we're cooking. All right. So stratified squamous epithelium is going to be in the outer, the outer layer called the epidermis. And then we're going to have really only 5 different types of tissue that we have to have some understanding. And so let's see if we can get some idea. It's said that it's dense. What does dense mean? If something's dense, it's thick and it's irregular. So when we look at it, we're going to look at a cell, or actually a skin slide later. It looks like a mat. It's all matted. So it's dense, irregular CT. CT is connective tissue. And it is to give strength to the skin. So in other words, if you pull the skin up, you know, there's some elasticity there, but there's also strength. So if somebody tries to puncture you with, let's say, something sharp, it's this tissue that kind of gives you tension. And so it'll provide strength to the skin is what it does. So it's called dense, irregular connective tissue. And so you can tell what it is because when we see a picture, it'll just be real thick and red. And then we have another type of tissue that we're going to talk about, and it's called areolar connective tissue. And it's between layers. It kind of connects things together. And so it'll bind the skin basically to the muscle, and it'll act actually as a packing material around the tissues is what it'll do. And areolar connective tissue, if somebody, let's say William used to grab your cheek, did grandma ever grab your cheek? All right, well, what's the difference between, let's say, Trinity, you grab your cheek and you pull it out and you let go, and what happens to the skin? Corey, what happens? It does what?
It stays that way?
No, it doesn't. It goes right back to the way it was. Now, what happens if we get a hold of great-great-grandma who's still alive? Okay, and we take her cheek and we pull it out. What's going to happen to it?
It's gonna stay there.
Yeah, it's gonna stay out there. Okay. Why? Because this areolar connective tissue has fibers in it, and it has elastin. So the elastin fibers are what gives it its elasticity. So as we get older, the elasticity is lost, isn't it? So the amount of elastin tissue, and then there's another fiber in this areolar, it's called collagen. You know how they're always trying to sell you some product that has collagen in it for your skin? Well, this gives you strength. So this is in the areolar connective tissue. It has, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So like when people that like lose a lot of weight fast, I've noticed like they have stretchy skin. Why is that?
Well, it's because the skin was pushed out. And if it, you know, it basically was stretched and it's not going to go back to the way it was. So what do? Sometimes I'll have a surgeon cut the skin and, you know, get rid of it. If they're, let's say somebody's 400, 500, 600 pounds, okay, and they lose, you know, 200-300 pounds, they're going to have to get rid of some of that skin. So they'll cut some of it away.
But like if they don't cut it, will it ever return back to its normal state?
Not the same as what it was prior to when it got stretched out, okay? I would imagine, let's take a look at, unfortunately, our lady friends here in class. Is there anyone who wants to talk about stretch marks and having a child, or does no one want to go there?
Oh,
It's a dangerous, all right, Henry's going to do it. Okay, go ahead.
Said I can talk about stretch marks.
Okay, well, tell us about stretch marks.
I mean, kind of going on what William was saying, you know, I never was obese, but I was a larger person than I am now. And so I've got stretch marks and spots where I've lost mass, and, you know, they're there. They're a lot of fun sometimes, but they
tell a story, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, and so bones do the same thing on an X-ray, but there are fibroblasts. The fibroblast, does anyone know what a keloid is? Keloid is a scar that if you cut your skin and it doesn't heal, but it kind of like scars. That's what a keloid is. And some keloids become very, very large. And basically, sometimes people will go to have the keloid cut off, is what they'll actually go and do. So areolar connective tissue is a tissue that is actually found between the dermis and the epidermis, and between the dermis and the hypodermis, and it actually is going to connect different layers, is what it does, and it's kind of like a filler, and we'll look at more in a moment. The bottom of the page is adipose. Adipose is fat, and connective tissue. Basically, it's as adipose connective tissue. It's in the hypodermis, and it cushions the body, keeps the heat in, insulates long-term energy, and it's where we store our fat, is what it actually will do. What I'd like to do, William, let's do some screen share, and let's go to some of the slides for this lab 4. So let me go to that point. And if you can go ahead and if you'll open it up, and let's see if we can get through that. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these different things. It makes it easier when you can see a picture. So let me hit screen share. And we should all be able, okay. Very good. All right, so is this the first one? Okay, and we got a larger picture. All right, on the left side here, it says identify the layer. On this is the top layer of skin. And you may see a picture like this on the practical, but it's the epidermis. And the epidermis has the stratified squamous epithelium. I'm gonna call it the light kind of cream color outer area is stratum corneum. It's the outermost layer. And this tissue here is dead, is what it is. Let's see if we can bring it back. There we go, good job. So at the bottom, if you'll notice where it has the squiggly line, it shows the layer at the bottom of the little line is called the stratum basal. So everything from there to the surface, to the superficial area, is epidermis. And so these cells are primarily in the base, the stratum basal. There's cuboidal cells. And then as these cells migrate to the outside, they lose their shape. They're not little boxes. They actually become scale-like, and they're keratinized. Below, I'm trying to get close enough so I can see these different numbers. And let me go over on mine. So number 28 in the middle of your screen, that is actually, thank you, that is actually just below the epidermis and the dermis. That's a sensory receptor for light touch. Go to the left with your little arrow, or at least I can go to the left. This is a hair cell, and what gland would we find on a hair cell? Are we gonna have an oil gland, or do you think we're gonna have a sweat gland?
Oil gland.
Oil, yeah, an oil. So what does this oil do? It traps bacteria, makes our skin soft, and so basically it's needed, so it's an emollient to keep the skin moist. If you go to the left, you're gonna see a yellow squiggly line. That's actually a sweat gland. And just like the oil gland, it'll be made of cuboidal cells, and the cuboidal cells are going to secrete either, in this case, sweat or an oil. Let's see, what else did I see? 29, can we go to 29 over here? Above on the hair, the second hair on the right, free nerve ending. Is there anybody that doesn't know what a free nerve ending does? Corey, can you tell me what a free nerve ending might do? What if I pick you with a pin? What's going to happen?
You feel pain?
Yeah, you'll feel pain and or temperature. Okay, is what the free nerve ending does. And then The one that looks like the Christmas tree, number 28, is called Meissner's corpuscle. Light receptor is what it is. There's a little muscle connecting to the hair on each hair, and it's number 20. It's what it has. Anyone ever had their, let's say, seen a dog or seen a lion when it gets ready, a male lion, when it gets ready to fight? What happens to the hair, the mane? It stands up to make, even like a baboon, it'll make the hair stand up, and it basically makes them look more ferocious. But this is used, the little, when you get a goosebump, okay? I think we commonly call it a goosebump, don't we? So that's a little erector papillae. It'll make the hair stand up erect. Okay, let's go to the next one, William. Good job, thank you. So see what it says? Epidermal layer and stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Stratified means multiple layers, okay? And squamous means scale-like, or it's flat. And epithelium is the type of tissue that we actually have here, epithelium tissue. Next. Okay, so now after we've gone from the epidermis, we have to be where? We're just below.
Dermis.
Dermis. And the dermis, basically, if we look at the dermis, this is where we're going to have a lot of fun things in here. On the left, let me move mine. I'm going to go to the next slide too. I'm just behind. I've got two computers open today. Makes it a little easier. Okay, 22 is the what? Sweat gland. Okay, and so basically they're going to say, where are these? The sweat gland and the oil gland are in the dermis. There may be questions like that on this test coming up this next week. Okay, it's like, you know, these glands, where are they found? Those are found in the dermis, are they not? Okay, number 31. Number 31 is a deeper sensory receptor. And so what I'd like to do is, if I take my skin and I take a pencil and I just lightly lay it on top of the skin, I am affecting it. I am sending a signal with Meissner, the one that looks like a Christmas tree. But if I keep pressing down, I'm then not just pressing on Meissner, I press on this other one called Pacinian, and Pacinian is for deep pressure or pain, okay? So if you are pushing on somebody, light pressure is one thing, but when you start pressing deeper, now you're pressing on the Pacinians, and the Pacinians are used for pain. Let's go to the next. Go ahead, question.
When somebody gets a tattoo, how far does that go into dermis?
It's got to go through the epidermis. It's probably layered somewhere in the dermis, okay? There's like an upper dermis and a lower dermis. I would imagine it's going to be in the upper.
The upper dermis?
I would think so, okay? And so it was, in the reading, I was reading a little bit. If we look at the different layers between, you see where the blue line is across across the hair? Okay, that's the difference between epidermis and the dermis. And if we put something into the dermis, this area, there's loose areolar connective tissue as a filler between dermis and epidermis, and then also between the dermis and the hypodermis, and then hypodermis and the muscle. So in other words, there's a lot of different things. Now, I mentioned what was called dense irregular connective tissue. And dense irregular connective tissue makes up the majority of the dermis. Let's go to the next slide. So basically, this just gives us so you're at, let me go to where we're at. Okay, it's just giving you a different layer. where are all the larger blood vessels then? Take a look. Where are they? Higher up there, what? Just below the epidermis. The larger ones are, if you start plucking hairs out, ladies, what happens occasionally? You gonna get blood?
Yeah.
Yeah, occasionally. So if you look down in here, let's say you're shaving yourself and you get cut, some of these blood vessels this deep. But if you look at it, so where are we at now? See the yellow, what is this area in here?
Adipose.
Adipose. Okay, so we have a layer of adipose. Let's go to the next slide. And it just says hypodermis, adipose, and it says areolar connective tissue. If we go back to 4.3, go back one, where it gives you the name of everything. Okay, see where it says areolar connective tissue? So it's going to be in here as well. It's going to connect the fat. So there was something called roughing. Has anyone ever been roughed? I throw that out there just because as a chiropractor, I've heard about it, but I don't think I want it. What do? They go to a massage therapist, and the massage therapist separates the fatty area from the muscle. So they rip and pull and separate the skin from the muscle if you get roughed. I hear it's painful. Probably
Yes,
costs.
actually, yeah, I've had it. I've had it.
Did you feel better afterwards?
Yes.
Okay, so if you think about it, what it's going to do is really increase blood flow. So let's say you have had some damage, or let's say you've had trauma. I would imagine it would allow for good blood flow to get in there to promote healing. And what was the reasoning for having the deeper massage like that?
Just like my IT bands were really tight and like sticking.
Okay, you're a runner?
Yeah.
Are you a runner?
Yes, I'm a runner, but it was for volleyball.
Oh, okay.
It's from volleyball.
Okay,
so my IT bands were so tight that they had to do that to get it. It was like sticking to the fascia.
Okay, so for what she's describing is what's called the iliotibial band, and tibia basically is iliotibial band. It's very tight because the collagen fibers become contracted. And so in her case, what she was trying to do was to loosen them up. And an IT band problem is not good because it's just below the knee, and the IT band will restrict your ability to run. Okay, let's go from this one to the next slide. Let's go to the next one. Okay, function of the gland on the hair, we said was a what? Oil gland structure. So it's a oil gland, sebaceous gland. Go ahead and see what the function is.
Secretes, I bet.
Yeah, we know it secretes, right? So we go to the next one. And it says oil or sebaceous, keeps the skin soft, protects, and it'll actually trap bacteria, okay, is what it'll actually do. So that's what the oil does there. Okay, next one. We got some good slides coming up. Okay, so this one here is the higher sensory receptor called Meissner, and it's a sensory receptor for light touch. Looks like a Christmas tree is what it actually looks like. And next slide. See, Meissner corpuscle detects light touch. Next slide. Okay, free nerve ending is number 29. Pain and or temperature is what it will do. And if we'll go on. So free nerve endings detect pain and temperature. And let's go to the next one. And so basically that is a sweat gland. And so we know sweat actually does what? It kills bacteria because it has like an acid, but it also, the sweat cools down. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just said cools the body.
Yeah, it'll definitely cool the body. There are people that don't have sweat glands, and so therefore they do not go outside. And if I live in Florida, they definitely don't go outside. Has anyone heard of that problem?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, you can just imagine if they're what Murphy's law. Murphy was Irish, and so if something can go wrong, it will. Okay, so you know, here we've got our sweat gland. And so remember, what was I saying before? Let's talk about this whole scenario with how do we affect red blood cells by changing the volume of water around the red blood cell. If you sweat a lot, I can sweat 5 pounds of water weight when I go out for like an hour and a half. So you can only imagine as I sweat, where does the water come from? We already talked about the bloodstream, right? And so the blood becomes thicker, but you can also alter the amount of fluid in the red blood cell depending on how much water you have in your blood. Okay, go on. Let's go to the next one. And so this is the deeper one. It's a receptor, sensory receptor. This is Pacinian. And Pacinian is deep pressure, or again, I think of deep pressure, it can become pain. Next. And detects pressure or pain, deep pain. Go on. Okay, so this is a model that I think I may have used. We have different, let me get to that on my other computer. Just takes a second for it to load. All right, so we're on 4.9. All right, let's go ahead.
Inside this, are these actually the colors they look like, or?
No, they just colored them so that we can tell the difference. I would imagine fat though looks yellow.
Yeah, I was just I was just a little confused with that.
Yeah, now so the fat is going to be yellow, and that's the hypodermis. If we look down on the right, bottom right, that's a Pacinian. It looks like an onion. That's how you can tell Pacinian. Yeah, just because it has the layers is what the hairs. This much you need to remember: oil glands are only on the hair. Sweat glands are free by themselves. Somebody tell me where do we find the dermis from epidermis on this picture? What color is the let's say some of the layers of the epidermis?
Well, the epidermis is higher up, so that's a little bit more.
Okay, what color?
It's hard to tell. It's like a tan color, really.
Okay, well, believe it or not, you're close, but let's include, you see the blue area that goes down where it looks like it has like a wave?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's still epidermis. And so the wavy darker blue is the base part. They call it stratum basal. So this is what happens in the epidermis. It starts as cuboidal or boxes, and then there's one layer thick, and then through mitosis it'll make cells, and it'll push these cells to the outside. So as you go from that darker stratum basal to the outer cream color stratum corneum, the cells at the outer part are dead, and so you'll have you don't have blood supply in this outer area up there. So where's the blood? The blood is just below in the dermis and then in the hypodermis. So when you cut yourself shaving, whether you're a guy or a girl, I just needed to go ahead and put the, all right, I'm up again. Okay, so when you cut yourself, what you're gonna find is that the blood vessels that you're cutting are in the dermis or even below if you're really not doing that well on your shaving. Does everybody follow? Okay. So this is just a model, but the colors are there just to show you. So you have the shaft of the hair with the erector papillae coming off on the left, okay? And then we have these different receptors and free nerve endings. Meissner's corpuscle are the little trees underneath the little ridges, is what those are. And they're on the right-hand side, up in this area on the right-hand side, right over there.
So Dr. Byrne,
Yes, sir.
if you were to, just using your example, cut yourself shaving, but you only hit like the squamous cells at the top that are dead.
Well, you scrape them off. You scrape them off all the time.
Right.
And so they're dead. You're not going to bleed if you're just taking layers off. Depends on. Go ahead.
Out of curiosity, how deep do you have to go even to see serum?
You know, I would imagine you got to get down into where you got to go through the epidermis to get down to that point. Okay, but you scrape this stuff on the dead cells. I do this. Normally, I'll walk in around the class and I'll go up to William and I'll get it by his lab area and I'll do this and I'll shed some of my squamous epithelium cells with them. And it always goes over well. But yeah, so we're shedding all the time, just like your dog sheds hair, you shed dead cells. So that's basically what's in some of the dust that, you know, if you looked at, don't look at the back of a chair that you sit in that's made of some kind of cloth, because what do you think is going to be in that?
Dead cells.
Dead cells, yeah. You girls know that. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, Wilma's pearls. You see, that's what Dr. Brightman teaches this lab as well. See the cuboidal cells? So this is from the kidney, simple cuboidal. And so in this case, what do cuboidal cells do? Let me see if I can remember now. They absorb and they secrete. That's all they do. So in other words, take a look at them. The lumen is a kidney tubule, just like the one on the left. Why did they call it Wilma's pearl? Wilma Flintstone, right? So she could have worn something like that. All right, so you see the outer cell membrane and the nucleus inside. Okay, all right, let's go to the next one.
On this one, what are these like yellow spots?
Actually, when you say yellow, I just see other cells just filling in, is what we have. You're going to have, these are other cuboidal cells, but they're not part of this tube. The middle part is actually like a straw. Pretend that this is a straw. And so you're looking in, the opening is where the opening is. It's called a lumen, L-U-M-E-N. And then the outer part of your straw would be like these cells here. Okay, is what we'd actually have.
So then the lumen is like an inner diameter, and then
So
outside of that.
Right, so take a pencil, then you've got the lead on the inside, and then where the wood would be where the cells are. Okay, is what we actually have.
Okay.
Yeah. Next slide. Simple cuboidal because it was what? One layer thick. Next one. Okay, this is actually, if you look at it, this is skin. So when we're looking at it, the arrow is where? It's actually the dermis is going to go below these two layers that you have here. And so I don't know how to describe it. I'm going to just say you've got this wavy top line. That's the outer layer of the epidermis. Then you have like this layer in between. That's the middle layer of the epidermis. Then you have this brown. See the brown tissue stuff? Okay, that's the stratum basal region. So anything to the outside is epidermis. So where is the arrow? That's the question on the test. Somebody help me. Where's the arrow? What layer? Take a guess.
Epidermis.
Epidermis. Epidermis, because anything from like this reddish color to this cream to the outside, that's all epidermis. Can somebody see a hue above in the middle of this outer layer? Or am I the only one that sees that? Does everyone see it like a thicker area?
Yes.
Okay, I can see it in my eyes are like 3 times older than everybody else's.
It's like
Okay.
a grayish color, right?
I'm sorry?
Is it like a grayish color?
Yeah, it's actually found this grayish color is only in thick skin, palms, and on your feet or elbows, depending on if you put them on the table. And so this is stratum lucidum. It's one of the 4 or 5 layers of the epidermis, only found in thick skin. My skin of my hands is thick skin. My feet, thick skin. So when I look at some of my patients and they're wearing flip-flops and I look and see that their skin is all dirty and crusty, I know they haven't done what?
Washed and
No, they haven't been wearing their shoes and they're walking around barefoot. They think they're in Florida, or are they not? So the question again, what layer is the pointer in? It's in the epidermis. Everybody see? All right, let's go to the next layer. Next picture. That was the layer with stratified squamous, and that was epidermis. Go to the next picture. There should be 1 or 2 more. I think there's like 3 or 4 more. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so what layer is this? Actually, I don't want a layer. I want to know the tissue of those. Go back to the page 2 that we did earlier today. What tissue is in this layer? What is this? I mentioned earlier that it was a reddish pink color. What is that? I'm sorry?
Epithelial.
Well, how about
Fatty tissue.
how about dense, irregular
Connective tissue.
BT? Do you see it looks like a mat? Do you see how it's going to go and withstand? So take a knife and try and stick it through the skin. Do you see how dense this dermis is? So this is dense, irregular connective tissue. And so it gives strength to the skin. So it's easy to cut this outer epidermis. There's more strength in here. Okay, does everybody see that? So this is where the dense, irregular connective tissue would be found in the dermis. Next slide. I think they wanted to know what tissue. Dense, irregular CT. So that's what it looks like. Go back one more time just so everybody gets it right. All right, so the arrow is in the dermis, whereas in that color area above that, that's all epidermis. That all those layers to the outside is epidermis. Any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, dense irregular CT found in the dermis. Okay, I like this slide. Chicken wire. Does anyone have a chicken coop at home? Does anyone see this? What kind of tissue is this? It looks like adipose. Good job. And in the outer wall or membrane is the nucleus. So if we were able to kind of like, let's say, blow that picture up, which I can't, but in your textbook, you're going to see that it looks like chicken wire. Okay. And so this is adipose. And what's the function? Stores fat, cushions, you know, a source of energy. Okay. Next slide. I think we're getting to the end of this one. Adipose CT. Why is it CT? What does CT stand for?
It's connective tissue.
Is blood a type of connective tissue?
Yes.
Yes, it is. That's a lecture question, not a lab question. All right. One that I don't know if we talked about. Well, here it is. Loose areolar connective tissue. This is what we're looking at here. How do I know it's loose? There's gaps. See the big gaps in here?
Mm-hmm.
Is it matted like dense irregular connective tissue?
No.
Does it have, you see these like purple, they look like straws. That's collagen. And in here should be little black lines. There's some little black lines. That's the elastin, Nicole. So they're hard to see, but you'll see them in your textbook. So loose areolar connective tissue is filler, and it has fibers. It has collagen for strength, elastin for elasticity. The elastin are going to be black, and what the little black, I'm going to call them oblong structures, are fibroblasts that make these different fibers. So when you cut yourself and you start forming all these different fibers and get a keloid, it's because the fibroblasts make the scar, is what actually happens. So if you go to somebody who's a plastic surgeon and they're cutting on your face, you don't want these little fibroblasts to go and make lots of scar, because then you're basically wanting to hide your, the fact that somebody cut on your face. Okay, next, I think we may be done.
So a question for the practical, how is that going to be through the honor lock system? And
Nope.
You're going to have
No honor lock. This is what I'm doing. I'm being very thin. I'm going to be very assuming. I'm going to assume that you're adults. And so let's talk about the test. It's going to be open Friday morning at 6, and it closes Tuesday night at like 11:30.
Oh wow.
It's an hour test, and at an hour, it'll give you like 5 extra minutes to finish up. Okay, is what it'll allow you to do. So I thought about it. I'll know if I have students who get hundreds on all their quizzes, and then they get 100 on the practical, I will not be surprised. If I have students getting 70s on the quizzes and they get 98 on the test, I'll know that they did not take it the way they were supposed to. Everybody follow? I'll know, don't worry. So the test itself is multiple choice. There'll be 50 questions, and you'll take it through your computer, just like where you are now. You don't have to go and do anything, but just go in, and the test will be where you find your quizzes. It'll be practical 1 is what it'll be called, and it'll be open this Friday morning at 6. If it's not, I'm in my office. Somebody call me so that I can make sure that I could fix it if it's not open. I doubt anybody's taking it at 6 o'clock on Friday morning, though. Okay? All right. How would I study for the test? I would go through and print out the lecture notes and then the assignment, and make sure that I fill those little answers in. I would go and look at every image and understand and have an understanding of the image. I would go back to the weekly pre-test, which is the quiz, and I just opened it up for 8 attempts. So practice and do some review, okay, is what you can do. All right, is what we're going to actually do. All right, so let's look at what we have. We're not done with tonight's assignment. We're on, I think, let's go to the end of at least the images, William. Okay, so we're back at lab 4. Let's go to page 3 of our, let's say, assignment. It says sweat glands have, on page 3, it says sweat glands. What are 2 of the functions that are in this list for sweat? What does sweat do? I'm looking at page 3 of our assignment. Corey, I know you read this ahead of time, right?
Cool
So
body.
it cools the body and does what besides that?
And it's protection against infection.
Exactly. So it's
Bacterial
protection.
growth.
Exactly. And it's acidic. All right. What about oil glands? What does our oil do?
Lubricate.
Lubricates and protects from infection. What about the hair follicle?
Touch
UV.
receptor.
Touch receptor, yeah.
Touch
UV
receptor,
protection.
heat
Retain radiation.
retention, and
Okay.
protection from UV.
UV.
Right. What about the free nerve ending? It does two things,
Detect pain.
pain and temp. Is everybody with me?
Okay.
Temperature. What about
Or, yeah.
Meissner's corpuscle?
Light touch.
Light touch receptor. Okay. What about the lamellated? What is lamellated? Lamellated. What does that mean? It means it looks like an onion. It's got layer after layer. Okay, so it looks really like an onion, and it's a deep pressure receptor. I think of it also as pain, because if you put enough pressure, you're going to cause pain. Okay. From the list above, identify the layer that each structure is located. And so when I looked at all the different things, sweat glands, oil glands, hair, free nerve endings, Meissner's, and Pacinian, where are all of them located?
Dermis.
Dermis. Yep. They're only in the dermis. What's in the hypodermis? Fat. What's in the epidermis? Stratified squamous epithelium is all that we have. Okay. All right. I've noticed that a few of you didn't get this lab done over the weekend, and I don't know why. I guess, was there a question? I know a few people didn't get it done. I'm saying probably 95% of everybody took the quiz. That was due by normally by Sunday, the week before we come to class, but we were off yesterday. So this is what I'm going to do, and it'll be the last time. I'm serious. I'm going to be very serious about this. If anybody hasn't taken that cells lab quiz, you better do it tonight and get it done, or try and get it done in the next day. Okay. And so we need to get caught up. If you're not getting 90s or 100s on the quizzes that you can take up to 8 times now, okay, then you're going to have a hard time with the practical, because a lot of it's a lot of memorization. It's rote memory is what we have. But that's what this course is. And it only gets, it just gets a little harder because we're going to be learning terms. So the easiest test is the one coming up this next week. And when I say easy, it's easier to score a good grade. Okay, there's still a lot of memorization. However, I think a lot of people tend to do well on the first test. The next section that we're going to go into will be bone, and then we'll be dealing with cartilage, and then muscles. And there's a lot more memorization than what we have right now. Okay, so if you did not get your quiz done for this third lab, then you need to go ahead and do that. What about the quiz for the fourth lab? When should we have that due?
Sunday.
Thursday.
I'll tell you what, if I were going to take the test and the test was over 4 labs, I would get that fourth quiz pre-test or quiz done before I started the test.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make sense?
Thursday.
I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense that, so before you even take this test that's open Friday through Tuesday, get in, and you have what? How many? You got I just opened it up for 8 attempts. So if you can't get a 90 or 100 in that many attempts,
What are you doing, huh?
then we're having a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What is hard about the chemistry lab? Somebody help me on the chemistry lab. What's hard about that? Let's go back to lab 2. Let's talk about it. Seth? Anybody? Nicole?
Yes.
I feel like what was difficult for me was the whole what was it? The hypo, when you're adding supplements and then adding the water and then seeing the pressure up and down.
Okay, did you okay, you were talking about Hypotonic.
Protonic.
Yeah, hypertonic. And that was the most
Isotonic.
difficult for me to remember.
Okay, well, it's hard for me too. And so that's not on the test, but let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's have a cell, and inside the cell, there's cytoplasm. Outside the cell, there's water. And so let's say solute in solution. So salt and sugar and whatever. And it's the same consistency as inside the cell. It's isotonic. So the net movement from one side to the other is the same. Iso means same, correct? Okay, it just means same. All right, let's go and let's take a cell, and I'm gonna put it in a real thick syrup is what I'm gonna put it in, full of sugar. And the cell has what's inside the cell. It's got cytoplasm with lots of water.
Yeah.
And the sugar outside is so thick, it's like eating a pecan pie. You put the fork in it, and the thing stands upright, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the only way water can move? It's so thick outside, water is inside the cell. Where's it gonna go? Outside to the thicker area, it goes from high concentration to lower. It's trying to go and dilute that thick sugar outside. So what happens to the cell?
It
Shrinks.
Yeah. All right, so let's go now into hypotonic. Okay, hypotonic solution. And so what's a hypotonic solution? What do we have there?
Basically lower
we have lower stuff dissolved in
concentration,
concentration outside, and so there's more concentrated solution inside. Now, where is water higher in concentration? Out.
Yeah.
So it comes in, and what happens to this cell or egg? It
swells, it bursts, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I talked about that just because you're going to need to have some understanding for lecture or for, let's say, when you're in the field. It's not on the test. Does everybody understand it? When I have a polymer or a long chain of a starch or a protein and I add water to it, what am I doing?
You're breaking it down.
I'm breaking it down by adding water. What is it called?
Hydrolysis.
Hydrolysis. Hydrolysis. I hydrolyze it. It's like I'm cleaving, okay, is what I'm actually doing. It's called hydrolysis. All right, what happens when I take a smaller molecule and I add another molecule to it? What am I doing there?
Dehydration synthesis.
Synthesis. Say it like you know it. Say it again.
Dehydration.
Dehydration synthesis. Yes, because I'm synthesizing, I'm making it larger. Okay, so those are two things. All right, where do I find an ionic bond? Where's the ionic bond? What molecule had an ionic bond that we talked about from chem?
Salts.
Salt. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of bond is an ionic bond? Is it strong?
Mm-hmm.
You like covalent?
Okay, well, compared to covalent, it's not as strong. Compared to a hydrogen bond, it is strong, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me about a covalent bond. What does a covalent bond do? Anybody?
They share electrons?
They share electrons, and because if your neighbor, let's say your son married the next door neighbor's daughter, that's a covalent bond.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're sharing your kid with the next door neighbor's kid. That's covalent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have something in common is what you have. You need each other. Do you see what I'm saying? So they're sharing electrons. So it's a strong bond. So most of them are covalent is what we actually have. What about hydrogen bonds?
Those are polar.
Well, they're
between two molecules.
Yeah, they're between two molecules, or like water. Remember we had water? like the oxygen and the hydrogen, there will be an attraction. And what do we have to do to break that hydrogen bond? We have to add heat, right? To break the bond. And then now we have water as steam. So that's the hydrogen. Where in the DNA is the hydrogen bond?
Connecting the DNA and the mRNA, like in the middle.
Yeah, like in the middle. So in other words, you got a helix. In between is the hydrogen bond. Where in someone's curly hair is the hydrogen bond? William, you just answered it. Between one molecule and another. So between the proteins, if there's an attraction, that's why the curl is there. How do you get rid of the curl?
Straighten it.
You straighten it with heat, right? Don't you take an iron?
Well, I don't do that, but yes.
I don't either. I don't have any hair to do that with. So we can't do that. Okay. All right. Questions for me thus far. If you haven't done the third pre-lab quiz, get it done in the next day or so. And then for this, let's say for this lab 4, you want to get it done before you take the test. And when's the test close? Next week? At what time?
Tuesday.
Tuesday night at 11:30, but you can take it as early as Friday morning at 6. Okay?
We still have lab Tuesday, right?
No lab.
Oh.
Your test is the lab.
What if we want
to... okay, so there's no Monday lab.
There's no Monday night class. There's no Tuesday night class. Good question.
Okay.
Okay. So in other words, use your time studying and get yourself ready. When is the lecture test or test, I guess is what I want to know.
That's
when
on
is
the
that?
20th.
Oh, really? That late?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the 20th.
For A&P lecture, mine's next Tuesday evening.
Okay, well that
Mine
makes
too.
Yeah, a lot of us normally we would have had the lecture and then you would have come right to my lab. So in other words, typically you could have 2 tests on the same night.
I think for some of us it's open. Like
Okay.
It's starting, but like I think the last day is the 20th for it.
Okay, all right, well that's good. Once that the kiss of death, and what has me concerned when I see so like 4 or 5 that don't have the quiz done, is that if you don't get a chance to do it, that's just telling me that there's just so much stuff going on in your life that you're really not able to keep up. And there's just too much. It's so hard to do like, 2 or 3 chapters. That's why doing this lab in the summer is not suggested. You're doing 2 labs within 5 days. Here we have a whole week to go through a lab. It makes it a little easier. Everybody kind of follow?
Yes.
So, but sometimes people will do it because they want to get done, get through. Okay. I will be available. I'll be looking to see that you guys are getting the quizzes down and done. And I'm looking forward to some good grades. Okay. And I think we covered what we need to as far as what, is what is in this lab. So really in your textbook, it's the first 5 chapters. Chapter 4 is tissues. Go look at these different tissues. You can do that. And it wouldn't hurt you, since you have now 8 different attempts on this lab, to go take it and see how well you do, on the lab, which is the information that we've already done after you study some of this tonight. Okay. Any other questions? Shoot.
Now will the questions from the past quizzes be repeated in the exam?
I didn't make the questions in the pre-test. I took the questions and I took your lab lecture notes that we talked about, and then I looked at the lab images. And so I went straight from your lab lecture notes and asked questions about them. So in other words, where it says, what do cuboidal cells do? They only do 2 things. They absorb and they secrete. I took that right from your notes. Everybody kind of follow? So what are the 5 functions of a cell membrane? Remember we went over that last time? Tissue identification, connects to the tissue next door. allows for movement of fluid, from one side to the other side of the cell. There are 5 things that the cell membrane does. That's straight out of your lab notes, okay? So in other words, you want to understand, that's why you got to read through them and get it down, and that'll help you. Does that give you a clue or some hints?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. And then not every question has an image. I've got true, false. I got multiple choice. And then there are some with these images, like, the arrow in the dermis, epidermis, and what's found here and stuff like that. Okay. All righty, guys. I want to thank William for being our, screen sharer again. I guess he gets an extra brownie point or 2 or 10.
Thank you, William. Thank you.
And we'll go on. So we will meet, not next week, but the following week is what we'll do. Okay? And if you have any questions, either just hang on tonight or just send me an email. Is there anybody that's totally lost and doesn't know what to do between now and next Tuesday?
No.
Okay.
But I still.
Go ahead, Nicole.
On my quiz, my first quiz, I think you said it was fine, but I still have like the exclamation mark by it. It shows the grade, but then it doesn't have like.
Yeah, I think what it did is it just took the higher and then put a 0 for the second. I don't know why it did that, but I have them all on my sheet.
I know, because it was the first, I only took it once and I was like scared about taking it. I was like, I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah, well,
that's probably why.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. So for anybody that needs to take that third lab on cells, the pretest, once you've done it, send me the email. Let me know that you did it so I can go check it. Because I got to upload I got to go change maybe the grade from whatever it was to the new grade. Okay, so just let me know. That'll make it easier for me. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Have a good week. You got a lot of studying to do. And remember, the better you do on this, it just sets you up for the next test, gets us into that. A lot of memorization. So really, if some of this material, and if some of it is not all that interesting, but as we go on, it becomes more relevant. But you got to have some understanding, some foundation to get to the next level. And if you're, how do I want to say this so it didn't come out wrong? If you're wanting to be a nurse or you're wanting to get in the health field, there's just a lot of work. It just takes time and effort. And the thing you need to do is, you're not going to be perfect the first time you try something new. I went back, case in point, my brother shoots rifles, 22, and I did a little bit in high school, but my brother was the national champion. And so I went back on the weekend and on Saturday morning was shooting, and it was easier when I was like, let's say 16 to 18 than when I'm 67. Let's just say, so even when you go back and try and do things, you're not going to do as well. So if you make a mistake, what I've learned in life is you go ahead and you try the next time and do something a little different and try and, just try and, get it done. And it doesn't always go well, but you just got to keep plugging away. The person that has the lowest grade in nursing school and the person with the highest grade is still called what? A nurse. So remember that. All right, guys, I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you have a question, contact me inside the course, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
bye-bye.
Hey, someone had messaged me to try to get into class. Somebody
That
named
was me.
Sarah. Oh, okay, so you made it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I
Sorry
didn't
about
see the email in time.
Well, I try to get them. They do show up. When I go over here, it'll tell me, somebody's trying to get in, and I'm getting better. So when I'm looking into the distance, I'm not having a seizure. I'm actually allowing somebody to enter the course is what I'm doing. Okay.
No problem. I clicked the link and it wouldn't let me in, so I had to call IT and they had told me how to get into the back way. So.
Okay, gotcha. You weren't the only one. I think there was one other that might have had a problem. For me, it let me right in. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why, because normally I just go through my phone and I click the link that you have and it brings me in, but this time it kept sending me to like a page not found. So.
Well, that's what someone else said. And then I looked to make sure that it wasn't password protected, and it wasn't. So it was like, I was afraid to start another one. Go ahead,
Yeah.
buddy.
I think it was the link that was on the main screen because I clicked on that one too and it wouldn't let me go in. I had to go like further into the course content to get to it.
Okay, so was it the link inside I went in through lab 4 is where I went in.
Yeah, that's how I went in, but there was another one like on like the first page that said you can click it, and I tried and it kept saying
I see what's going on. Okay.
I tried two places. I tried the calendar and the front page.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and normally I'm always setting them up inside. I made this a habit. I'm trying to set them up inside the lab at the top, so I'll move it up. So that's the one that we use, and I didn't even know we had some other links there.
Yeah, it's like on the event. It's probably like the calendar. It shows what event is happening. So whatever you have on the calendar, that's what is popping up in the front. So that's probably why it did it twice.
Okay, well that makes sense now. We'll live and learn. So.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, very good.
I got a question on the cell chapter. There is something about microscopes.
Yeah. You mean as far as?
Yeah, because that's the disadvantage of this is we don't get the.
Well, we're going to have to cover. Yeah.
Are we going to be tested on anything to do with the microscope?
No, and the reason is that hopefully by the time you're in Anatomy 2, we'll have the scopes and we'll do it in class. So we're not I'm not asking you to do anything on the microscope. It's just not practical because that's what the whole practical is all about. We use a lot of slides in Anatomy 2, and that's where they want to get you ready to use it before you go to micro. Okay?
Oh, that's understood.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that come, let's say, January, that we're back in a face-to-face mode. And then that's where you can get some of this material. So really what Anatomy 1 is half the book. So it starts at chapter 1 and it goes all the way to the nervous system. And then the next part, it picks up at blood and goes the rest of the book is what it does. So it gives you an overview of the body is what it does.
Okay, and then the second question is, on the test when you do have the image, especially something like mitosis, I noticed that on your pictures you have them all numbered, like you did tonight with the epithelium and the dermis and the epidermis.
Right.
On the test, is it kind of like where you're going to ask us, hey, what is number 27? What is number 9? And then ask us like.
Well, I did say identify structure number 9, like on the cell model. Remember, like it may be, centriole or whatever the number. Where our mitochondria was like number 7. I would say identify structure number 7, and you can see number 7 on the picture, and then it would be mitochondria, basically.
Okay, so lab, in other words, different from lecture, kind of focuses more on visually identifying it and then also telling what its function is. And then...
it's just 2, A and P, identify and give a function. So we're supposed to support what they're doing in lecture, but they're going to go more in detail. That's why hypotonic, isotonic, and hypertonic is more of a lecture test question, but we used to cover it in lab, is what we would do.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for answering my questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Octavio, do you have a question?
Oops, sorry. I hope it's not too loud in here.
No.
Okay, good. So I don't know if you remember, but I was the one that was telling you I couldn't get in your Zoom classes for a couple of weeks. It was really rough with that.
Right.
I figured out what was wrong, but it was nothing I could do. It was only the people in the front that could help me with it. They actually were the only people that could confirm my email, but for some reason I couldn't see my own email.
Oh, wow.
Like information. So I don't know what was going on, but it was sending me confirmations, but it wasn't going through. So yeah, I was able to show up to last week's lecture, The problem was you guys were going back and forth with like different people were being paired together, but because I wasn't in the course, I didn't get to see the layout of everything.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about it. I'll help you out. Okay. So,
Yeah, 'cause I don't want to mess this exam up.
No, you're not going to. We're going to do fine. Okay. Inside under course content is going to be on the left-hand side. When you go into course content, there'll be a schedule. That's the schedule for every lab, and as far as what we're going to cover every week. So that's where you can find that. There's also under each lab, so you'll have lab 1, there'll be lab notes, and then a lab assignment. And so I see that you've actually been able to, you had a 90 and an 80 and an 80. So you've caught up pretty good or pretty well. And, but even so, if you want, why don't you go back and see, like on this third lab, see if you can get that 80 to 100, okay?
Yeah.
And you can take it up to 8 times. So you need to let me know that you finished doing the third lab so I can go and change the grade that you have.
Right.
So each lab, we have some feedback in the background. Each lab has images, and so what you need to do is look at those images, and it'll ask you a question like, what organ is this, or what body cavity is this? And I sent emails out with a lot of the answers to the various lab assignments. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So in other words, if I were you, I would go and review those pre-tests at the bottom of each lab and use them, but also look at the images and read the notes over 2, 3, 4 times, and make sure that you can fill in like the blanks on the lab assignment itself, and do that for lab 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Luckily for me, I'm actually in normal anatomy class with this lab, and that's been carrying me a lot because a lot of the information here is also in that. So that without that, I don't think I would be as far as I am in this class without being able to come up to these Zoom classes.
Now, who's your instructor?
I can't remember her name. I think it's not Welch. It's Wakefield, I believe.
Gotcha. What campus are you on then?
I'm Tarpon.
Okay, gotcha.
I've been doing her Zoom class, so it's been pretty much the same as what we're doing here. But for some reason, I was able to get into hers, and I'm assuming it's because it's not a lab. The setup's a bit different. I don't need to create an account, but it made me create an account using the SBC email.
Okay.
But it wouldn't let me confirm it, as I was telling you.
Yeah.
So if I try to use my Gmail, it would say that it's not allowed in there. Which,
and it's because
Gmail. So.
Yeah, well, Zoom, the college has Zoom through spcollege.edu. And that's how it's all processed. So the only way I can get on is burn.steve, at spcollege.edu. That's how I had to become a member or join is what I did and log on. So I have an account with them, and then it allows me, to be able to get on is what it does. So you have a textbook?
Yeah. I wish I knew why it did that to begin with. Well, that's the thing, because I don't know why it wouldn't let me confirm it. Someone else was able to see it through my own account, but I couldn't see it, which I don't understand.
Did IT try to help? How did they do?
Oh, they did. That's actually how they confirmed it. They went onto my account and confirmed it, but they told me it was in my email, so that I had kept sending the confirmation, reports, because it would let me send them over and over again until I was able to see them. But I couldn't see any of them. So it said, if this one doesn't send through, you send another. So that's what I did. And every time, go email. So I don't know why they were able to see it through my own account, but I wasn't able to.
Look, I've taught online partially. I did it in this, let's say back in March. And so I had to go ahead and learn how to make the test. So the test that you're going to take Friday through next Tuesday is a learning experience. It took me 8 hours to do a test, okay? And so it's been a process. And I didn't teach this summer, but the more I use, let's say Zoom, and the more that I'm interacting, the better I feel, and I think the better job I'll be able to do. When we come in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about what is cartilage. A lot of that is visual, and so I'll probably have William go ahead and screen share and allow us to follow along, and then I'll describe what's there. So it's a matter, it's just a process of sorry you had all those problems. So the fact that you're here, that's great. How are you doing in lecture?
I'm doing all right. I mean, it's been a bit rough because half the classes I've been taken out of because I was trying to get like the payments done. They had something called Nelnet, which is like the payment plan. This semester, for some reason, they made it so that you had to. I believe it was 2 weeks before the actual classes were due. You had to have it signed up by then, but it wasn't like that the other semesters. And
Right.
kind of my scheduling, like my ability to make the money I need to pay for things, is kind of tight right now. And they only give you like a day to pay it off before they take your classes. So I kind of had to wait a little later than I wanted to. So Melnet ended up taking me out of half of my classes because I was only able to pay half. So because of that, they put me back in the classes, but this was already like halfway through the first week. So I had missed a ton of assignments. The only classes I wasn't taken out of was yours in Wakefield. I was able to get into her Zoom, but I wasn't able to get into yours because yours is set up different. So
well, hey, listen, I'm still having problems screen sharing because I've taken all the images, put them on desktop, put them in a folder. I can see it. I've got a nice picture, and everybody, all they see are 20 little, thumbnail pictures. So I've got some issues too. It's a learning process. That's why I said, go ahead, and in your case, please go and see if you can get that 80 to 100. Okay, Octavio?
Yep.
Okay, good. And then also, you should be able to get 100 on this the fourth quiz too. So, and then that'll help your grade. You're already at a 90. The second 80 could get dropped because we're going to drop the lowest grade or quiz. So the way to test the class is there's 15 weeks, and every 5 weeks we're going to have a test. So 75% of our grade are the tests. Each test is 25, and then the other are the quizzes that you're taking. Okay, I'll give you an idea on that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, by the way, for all that. It's been a rough start. So I mean, I just kind of need a little bit of a
You're doing fine. Let me know lab 3, and hopefully you're able to get the hundreds on both of them, 3 and 4. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, and thank you.
You as well.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, sorry you had to wait so long.
No, it's fine. I have a question on because I'm still confused on how to study for this practical.
Okay.
Like if I were to study for the test for the lecture, would I be all set for the practical?
No, you you have to take the lab notes that, like, for instance, there were notes that were like 3 pages of notes on tissues. Forget about the microscope. We're not gonna be doing the microscope, but like, for instance, it says skin tissue histology. You need to know that information and read it over, and then make sure you're able to fill out the lab assignment. And those 2 parts go together, and then you have to take the images and associate the images with the information on those 2 pages. And the 2, like the assignment for the lab and then the lab lecture notes. And if you can do that and go back and forth, like let's say in chemistry, a disaccharide has 2 rings, remember the ring structure? And you can identify that, and it's a building block. And that a disaccharide, you can make a disaccharide with a monosaccharide and another monosaccharide by doing dehydration synthesis. then you're well on your way to doing really well on this. So in other words, you know, you may have like let's say a polypeptide, and you know it's a polypeptide, it has the little blue nitrogen. Or let's say it's a triglyceride because it has glycerol and 3 fatty acid chains or something like that. But you need to be able to identify them, or DNA or RNA. So it's more of a visual. And then what you have to do is, you know, I have true, false, multiple choice, but there's no fill in the blank. I made it all that it grades itself, and then I don't have to grade it. So that'll help you. Okay, does that help a little bit?
A little bit. So basically, I have to go through the lab notes.
The lab notes, and like how to fill things in. Make sure you understand them. But it's more than just reading. You got to put it in memory.
Yeah,
so however you get it, like when I say stratified squamous epithelium, you need to think epidermis. When I say dense irregular connective tissue, you need to think dermis, tensile strength. When I say hypodermis, you need to think fat cells and, you know, energy and cushioning, stuff like that. So anything in the notes, you need to associate it. And then if you see a picture, like for instance, the different layers of the skin, this is epidermis. And what's its function? It's for protection. You see what I'm saying? And keeping us from having infections and stuff like that. Okay?
Okay, great.
That's what you want to do. So, and the fact that there's multiple choice, that'll give you a little bit of, make it a little easier. But then don't be afraid. How are you doing, Renee? Let me look. You're doing 90s and 100s, so on the quizzes you're doing fine. The practical, like remember the picture where it had the pointer? This is, it says, you know, identify tissue. Well, they didn't ask layer, they said tissue. So that would be deep what? Deep, or it's dense, irregular connective tissue, or in the top, it was stratified squamous. So you got to read what's there. See what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, all right, good.
Makes me feel so much better.
Well, that's good. I think things will get, by the time we get to the 15th week, we'll figure out a few more problems. You know what I'm
let's
saying?
let's say I don't do well on this exam. Like, can I make it up later?
If you can have one bad day. Let me just say, let's say you get a 80 on it and you're doing 90s and 100s, and you even get 90s and 100s on the second and third test or whatever. You can have one bad day, it's not going to kill you. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but you can't have, like every time you take a quiz, you have a bad day. You can't have 12 bad quiz days. You see what I'm saying?
No. Yeah.
All right. That's how
All right,
it
well,
works.
thank you. Well, thank you so much.
And don't be afraid to help me, and we need to interact a little bit. The more I get to know your face and name, like I already know William because he's been so helpful. And I mean, you know, and I know you've been here because I've talked with you. But the more we do that, the better. I know there's like 30 of us here today.
Yeah, that's what's like stopping me from participating, because like it overwhelms me basically.
Well,
like a lot of people.
Yeah, but don't be, you gotta, how do you want to say? Kind of, you get over it after a while, or else you get run over, girl. You see what I'm saying? So you know, hey, you ever have somebody pushing you and you're driving, it's like, I'm here, wait your turn.
Exactly.
Right? I'm here, you wait your turn. Just, you know what I'm saying. So, okay. I thought tonight's class, I would have loved to have had 38 people. I think we only had, you know, maybe we had 28. So we're still missing quite a few, but they'll find out that you were here. So that's the best thing. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you. You have a great night. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you too. Bye-bye.